Here we are yet again on the Ashley Vale Film Studios, and in this clip we're going to look at peas and beans, and the first one is looking at the climbing peas and beans. So there's quite a wide range to choose from. I think you're aware of runner beans, but there's climbing French beans, and there's versions of that for drying. So we'll put up some frameworks for a range of those, and we'll look at the different frameworks in a moment. First bit, the bed preparation is the same as ever, so loosened if necessary. In a no-dig system, hopefully it won't need it. This one has got a little bit of raking perhaps still to do, and it's just a matter of, same as usual, tapping it over, getting a fine tilth. In this particular case, what we're putting in are, we're going to be putting some plants in, so perhaps the tilth doesn't need to be quite as fine as for seed sowing. And even then, if you're putting in peas and beans, they're generally quite a large seed, so you don't need to worry too much about that. Anyway, off we go. So what we've got for the supports on the first bed, it's kind of been traditional in a strange way to use bamboo canes, and that's what we've got here. And we're going to put them out as a teepee, not a wigwam, which is something different, a teepee. So it's a little ring of canes, and the spacing which we'll use for them is about 30 centimetres between the canes. So we do it like as follows. Measuring stick, here we are. So if we're trying to centre it, I'm going to put it at the back of this bed here, and so just in from the end a little bit, so that's right at the centre. And the first two canes, get the thick ends down there, are going in 30 centimetres apart. And just a small tip, if you've got your old canes and they're starting to get a bit brittle, it might be worthwhile angling them in slightly, because if you put them in vertically and then bend them in, there's more of a chance of them snapping. These are pretty old now. I'm trying not to buy new bamboo canes. Okay, it's a good start. So we're putting in 8. It's not quite a circle, obviously, with just 8, but being 30 centimetres apart makes the ring, if you like, around about 90 centimetres across. So we can kind of do that. Doing it by eye. Okay, those have just been gently pushed in, so that the two canes opposite each other effectively, and then the bit in between, again, doing it a little bit by eye. You don't need to worry too much about it. There's a cheeky robin wanting to join in. So these are again 30 centimetres, a foot apart, and so the distance there and there is the same all the way around. And I'll just finish it off. Okay, I didn't test that bit going across, and I think it's, if anything, a little bit close. Yes, it is. It doesn't matter too much. I'll just push them in a bit further. Should have been a little bit further out, perhaps. Now there is a little technique to tying them up at the top, and here we are. I'm going to use some wire to do it, and it's a matter of kind of laying one cane on top of another. So if you do it in sequence, and for some peculiar reason I seem to do it anti-clockwise, so if you take one cane, you can't perhaps see the one I've got at the back, but the one next to it then goes on top of it, the one next to it on top of that, on top of that, and so on all the way round, hoping they don't break. And the last one also goes on top of it, and you end up with a really nice sequence. In fact, you can then decide what height you want to put the tie on. You can bring it down like that, or up there if you want to. I'm going to go as high as I can reach, and I'm using wire because it's just easier, especially when you're doing it at a reach. Great, okay, that's not bad. The problem with the TP, of course, is it funnels all the plants up to a single point here, and so it gets really congested. And also you've got to try and get your hands in between here, where the canes are quite close, to pick the beans. Nevertheless, it's a really strong structure, so that's all right, it's a good start. If we look at the next bed, as an alternative to canes, which, like I say, you know, they're imported as pandas, starving because of this, and so it'd be really nice if we can get some of the branches. You can now buy hazel poles. Here I've got ones which, when I was clearing at the bottom of the plot, some of the hedgerow got cleaned out, and you can see pretty strange structures, but they'll do. They're strong enough and they'll do. So it'll be the same arrangement. I won't do the whole thing again, but I'll make another one with these in place, and it would do just as well. So that's another alternative. Don't waste any prunings like that. Just to have a quick look at this top version, if you like. Again, it's using the bamboo canes. It's already set up. Look at that. I use, in this case, string lines, and to put the canes in. So this is a double row, and it's the kind of framework you tend to use for runner beans because they're a bit more vigorous and it can give you a little bit more height. The spacing is the same as with the TP. It's around about 30 centimetres and 60 between the rows. What's interesting about this is you can vary the height, and quite often you'd have this support horizontal bar all the way up here, but it's actually not very easy to do that, especially if you're not walking on the bed and the bed is raised up as well. To actually reach all the way in there is not easy, so I can bring it down. It doesn't matter too much. What it might do though is make it slightly less stable, and if that's the case, then you might need to put one or two bracing pieces in as well. So I'll just finish off with that. And more ties all the way down, and then that just stops a little bit more movement. You can put another one on the other side, perhaps angled back the other way. You can even have them at the ends if you've got the room, just to try and stabilise it. There's nothing more enjoyable than at the end of the season strolling around allotment sites, looking at all these dead frameworks, crazy angles all over the shop, just giving an indicator of how well they were put up. Yeah, don't be embarrassed. Put some extra supports in there. Just to finish off, we'll put some plants in the very first framework, and that's quite interesting just in itself. So I'll move back down to the original teepee. And of course the plants, well, not of course, if you might not be aware of it, but the plants will go on the inside of the canes. And so this is a bean which you can, this particular one, it's Borlotti beans. They're climbing, it's a climbing version, and they have these amazing red speckled pods. Yeah, really great to look at. You can eat them fresh, or you can actually let them hang on and use them as a drying bean. So quite a versatile one. Borlotti beans. Anyway, let's plant a Borlotti bean. Taking them out of the modules, be very careful not to destroy the modules. So you give them a little squeeze on the sides, little push on the bottom there, and the stems are quite sturdy, so they should now just gently pull out. That needs planting. So if we just head on down to ground level. What I like to do when I'm planting actually is try and actually avoid digging holes. And what I mean by that is, if the soil is good enough, you should be able to put the trowel in vertically. I'll just demonstrate on the side here. Put it in vertically, then move it like that, and you part it. Pop the plant in, and then push back. And we'll try and do it here. It's a lot quicker, and you're not having to shift soil around quite so much. Let's put another one or two in. Like I say, this only works as long as the soil's soft enough. Well, to make this soft enough, certainly for the filming, cheating very slightly, I watered it. So yeah, you can do that. You can water it. There's also an interesting thing about the plants themselves, in that they have a particular way of growing, and that is, if your plants are a lot longer than these need planting out, but they are not nearly as tall as some I've seen, and you might need to train them around the canes after planting. Oh, lots of compost fell off that one. And the interesting thing there is that they need to go a certain way round the cane, and that is anti-clockwise when you look from above. So these plants are going to go round this way. And yeah, so if they're a lot longer and you need to tie them in, then remember to train them anti-clockwise around the cane. Yeah, I'll pop those other two in a bit later. And that's enough for the moment, anyway, for the climbing peas and beans. Thank you.